How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this next edition of You Know It, the Stupid Questions podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with Kirsten Casper. She is a USA Olympic team hopeful for the 2024 games. She races in Super League Triathlon and other WTS races, ITU stuff in the past. If you have not followed her, go check her out on Instagram. Today, we're going to be talking just a bit about her journey, how she got into sport, what she's been doing lately, what she plans to do. We talk about her values, talk about her first interaction with Canadian Olympian Matt Sharp, and how they started dating, and just an all-around really good conversation. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Kirsten Casper. Would you be interested in winning some free triathlon training gear from the company Synergy Wetsuits? If so, listen up. We are going to be working with them in partnership for the year of 2024, doing several different giveaways. This is the first of several giveaways, and this is going to be starting on March 8th and will be ending on March 22nd. The gear up for grabs is going to be a swim cap, swim paddles, and race belt. If you're interested, check out the link in our show notes to the Stupid Questions podcast Instagram page, where you'll find the most recent post on March 8th that has all the details on how to enter that giveaway. Thank you so much to Synergy Wetsuits for sponsoring these giveaways, and we look forward to hopefully picking you. Well, hey, thank you so much for jumping on. Super a pleasure to be able to finally meet you. I know I've talked to Matt quite a bit and got a little bit of the backstory, but to have you on is an exciting thing. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And sorry it took me so long to come on the show. It's been a busy fall, so I'm happy to make this work.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So I want to start with the first question. Who is Kirsten Casper?
It's been a while since I've done one of these. Oh man, talking about myself isn't my
no
favorite thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm 32.
Okay.
Married to Matthew Sharp. We have a dog, Reggie.
Nice.
And I've been doing triathlon now for 9 years.
9 years. It's going to be 10 years, I think, coming up in June from what I read, right? You started in 2014.
You've done your homework. Yes, exactly. Oh man, I can't believe it's been 10 years. I feel like I started triathlon when I was turning 23, and I feel like I've kind of frozen in time, but my body has aged, but I still think I'm 23.
Yeah. That's awesome. So where are you from originally?
So actually I'm originally from Newmarket, Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
I moved to the US in 2004.
Okay.
And became American in 2015. So I went to high school in North Andover, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So it's a trick question. I don't actually ever know how to answer people because I feel like I'm American now that I've lived over half of my life here. But I was originally from Canada.
Yeah. I guess I haven't heard of many people from that specific area of Canada, but do you hold a Canadian accent when you go back home, like to get back to your roots, you think?
You know, I moved when I was 13, so I feel like I was young enough that I didn't keep my accent or all the words. And actually I got made fun of when I first moved to the US that people would say A to me all the time in the hallway or saying "Oh Canada," that I feel like I honestly tried not to sound Canadian, but definitely my family, my parents, my older sister, they have the accent. And so when I'm talking with them, I feel like it comes out. Or when I was living in Victoria, British Columbia, it definitely, you could hear it in my voice for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Was it difficult moving from Canada to the US? I mean, you mentioned a little bit. Some people used to make fun of you a little bit. But...
Yeah, sure. So when I moved, I was going into 8th grade, and I was entering the middle school. So like those students had all been together for a few years. So I found it really tough. But to be honest, I think I had it easier. My sister was entering junior year of high school, and I couldn't imagine entering high school into a new country like that. So I think I had it easy compared to her.
Yeah. Interesting. So you have one sister, or you said
I have an older sister, Janelle. She's 3 years older.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just you two?
It's just us. Yes.
Nice. I don't understand this. Like, did you see the...
Yeah, you have balloons going past your head.
I can't figure out if it's like Riverside or my computer. I say I'm always going to fix that and I forget. So it's such a strange thing. And sometimes when I do like a thumbs up, it'll throw up like a thumbs up emoji.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, might be a Riverside thing. Okay, so you and mother and sister, and you grew up in Canada, you moved. What were you like as a kid?
Very active. I tried like every sport. I wasn't the greatest student. To be honest, I just loved playing sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How young were you when the first introduction to sport became a thing?
Mm. I mean, I started swimming like right away.
Really?
Um, yeah, I was a competitive swimmer when I was 5. Played
Are you
soccer right
serious?
away.
Wow.
Yeah. So I couldn't tell you the first thing I did, but yeah, my parents definitely got me comfortable with the water right away as a young kid, and
Yeah.
it went from there.
When did you actually start swimming? Were you like the newborn who
Oh,
was going
totally. My
to
dad
yeah.
took me to classes. Yeah.
Wow. So your dad, mom, do they have a sporting background as well?
Yeah, they both do. I would say my dad more than my mom. One of the reasons I think they actually got me started with swimming so young was my mom grew up in the middle of Canada in Saskatchewan. So she's on the
Okay.
prairies. And so she actually doesn't know how to swim. And she just didn't want that for me and her kids growing up to be afraid of the water. So that was
Yeah.
kind of one of the reasons we started so young. But I'm grateful for that now, having a triathlon
Yeah, yeah.
background. It's definitely helpful to start young with the swim and
Yeah.
learning that technique.
Yeah. It seems to me like people who started swimming from a younger age that I guess they get a better feel for the water and they're able to take longer breaks off of swimming and kind of come back and accelerate relatively quickly back to where they were before. You find that true for you?
Definitely. I took 5 years out of the water when I went to university because I was like burnt out from swimming, ran in
Yeah.
college, was refused to get in the water, especially for like cross training. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And then I started triathlon. And I would say it took me probably 3 weeks of like very painful swimming, knowing where I was before and having taken those 5 years. But yeah, I would say 3 weeks for me to get my stroke back. And then it was like I never was out of the water. So
Yeah.
I am definitely grateful for that because I when I first started triathlon, I was with a lot of athletes that swimming wasn't in their background, and
Yeah.
it was hard for me to relate to them because like when I'm swimming, I don't necessarily think about my technique. I'm honestly like in my head thinking about anything.
Yeah.
And so they would ask me what I'm thinking about, and I'm like, nothing. And
Nothing.
they'd be like, you're not thinking about your stroke. Like I get so tired because I'm so focused during the whole swim. And I was like, no. So it's interesting to have experience like training with them because I learned honestly what they were thinking about versus what I was thinking about. It was so
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah.
um, I can't imagine swimming for an hour and having that much focus on
Yeah.
like technique.
Yeah. You just kind of get used to it. It's like
Yeah,
walking, I
exactly.
guess. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So who are you more like, your mom or your dad, you think?
Mm. I look like my mom. I would say, in terms of my athletic ability, it comes from my dad. My
Yeah.
dad's side of the family has been very active. One of my uncles play in the NHL, so I
Oh,
feel like
sweet.
my athletic ability comes from the
Yeah.
Kasper side.
Yeah. So within your whole family as a whole, do you feel like athleticism and sport is a predominantly like the biggest part of the identity as a family, you think?
I would say it was definitely a big part. I mean, I remember as a kid, I always like wrote when you're a kid and you write your goals. Said I wanted to go to Harvard and I wanted to get a
Yeah.
scholarship for sport. But you can't go to Harvard and get a scholarship for sport. But I didn't
Yeah,
know that as a
tough.
kid.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah.
that was my goal pretty young. That I set my standard high for sure.
Yeah. So tell me about your parents and your relationship with them in terms of like their influence for what you ended up doing through high school, high college, and then beyond.
Sure. So growing up, my main sports was definitely swimming and soccer.
Hmm.
I always looked up to my older sister, and she was running. So she was the captain of the cross country team when I was entering freshman year of high school. And I was on the fence between doing soccer or running. And my parents kind of encouraged me to try the individual sport to see where I can go on that
Sure.
level. So that's kind of where I got into running. And that led me to a scholarship at university. So I feel like my parents were very supportive. I mean, they were up early, driving me to swim practice, always on
Yeah.
the sidelines when I was playing soccer, cheering me on. And
Yeah.
I owe a lot to them in terms of like even starting triathlon when I graduated university. They're the ones that encouraged me to give it a shot because I wasn't sure what to do in terms of getting a job or trying to keep pursuing athletics. And they 100% support me and back me. So when I feel like I'm trying to make this Olympic team, it's
Yeah.
definitely not just for me. It's for like my family and
Yeah.
even my grandparents would watch me on Triathlon Live and cheer me on, and my aunts
Yeah.
and uncles. So it's definitely a full family like
Full
support
family
system.
afar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So do you ever, in terms of that, I don't know if I want to call it pressure, but that support and motivation from the
Mm.
family, like you want to live up to a standard or set a standard, is that pressure ever become something that you wish you didn't have?
Yeah, for sure. So in high school, I had a very successful first freshman year of high school or running. And the following years, I felt the pressure to keep that level. And so I ended up starting to work with a sports psych pretty early on because I
Really?
did feel the pressure. It wasn't necessarily from my parents, it was like me wanting to succeed for them.
Yeah.
That's where the pressure came from because they were always going to support me no matter what. But
Yeah.
I held myself to a high standard. So yeah, I'm very open about that. I've worked with a sports psych since I was like 15.
Yeah.
It's been a key part of my whole career,
Yeah.
even as early as high school,
Yeah.
to kind of help manage that stress. And yeah.
Yeah. Talk me through some of those breakthroughs or things that you've kind of figured out throughout the years, because 10 years of doing that, like you're figuring out how to manage things at a different level every year and you're learning things. So what were some of those things you learned?
Sure. I feel like the biggest thing was just kind of learning that I didn't have to do anything, or like I want to do something. I had this, like, even when talking with a sports psych, I always was like, I have to win. I have to do this. And he's like, no, you don't have to do anything. You want to. It's like, so just kind of changing my mindset was a huge, huge thing for me. And then we visualize a lot. I think I use visualization a lot to prepare. So when I come to the start line, I'm not overly anxious. I've been there. I've seen it in my head. Like, I think that's a big key to what I do now.
Yeah. Walk me through a visualization session. Is it all kind of internal, or is there auditory words coming out? Are you writing things down? Yeah.
For me, it's all like in my head. I know they say you can like think about the smell or the sounds around you, but for me, it's just like I'm visualizing that course. I'm on the start line. I hear the gun go off. What do I want to execute when I get to the first buoy? What am I doing running out of the water to transition? How do I execute my transition? Like, just the kind of rolling through every stage of the race. And I know people say you should visualize for the length of the race, but I don't. I kind of just make sure I'm visualizing me crossing the finish line smiling, or standing on the start line smiling, just making sure I am thinking about how I want to feel. I want to feel confident. I want to feel strong. I'm excited. So that's more of my technique, what I do. And I do it before every race, honestly. In the hour before I go to the course, I do it when I'm getting ready.
Yeah. So take me back through a little bit younger, when you're starting to people. I mean, you said you started competing when you were 5, so I imagine you started to realize like, oh man, I can be kind of good at these things. At what age did that happen, where you start to realize I've got something here?
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Honestly, I feel like I didn't necessarily think that way until maybe high school.
Okay.
For the most part, the competitive stuff was always fun for me. I mean, the success definitely was a motivator, but I didn't really turn that mindset on until high school. And I think that's when I started putting pressure on myself. And that's why I need to start with working at the sports psych, because I saw the opportunity to go to university on a scholarship, and that it was actually a possibility to run in college. And just kind of also when schools started reaching out to you and everything, I would say that's kind of when I started.
You realize, yeah. How did you kind of manage through that process of figuring out which university to go to?
Good question. For me, I wanted to make sure academics were as important as a running program, and then I narrowed it down, and I went and visited those schools. And for me, when I was at Georgetown, it was the team that did it. It wasn't necessarily the university. I don't know if Georgetown necessarily fit me as
an academic.
Yeah, but I was with the girls, and I was like, this feels like home. This feels like my friends. And that's what was the decider for me.
So is it safe to assume that your best friend, other than Matt, is one of the females from college?
Yes, definitely. My best friends are definitely from college and high school. I do have some very close high school friends that I still keep in touch with, but no, those girls were definitely my best friends at school.
Yeah. Do you ever regret having moved away from Canada?
That's tough. I regret in the sense, no, I don't think I would have had the opportunities I do or had like with university or even started triathlon and the support from USAT. But I do miss at the time my family. My grandmother on my mom's side lived with us when I lived in Canada. And when we moved to the US, she couldn't move with us because of health insurance reasons and everything. So I'm sad that I missed those years with her when we moved away because she was so close. I was so close with her. But in terms of the big scale of things, no, I'm very happy we moved to the United States and I got the opportunities I did.
Yeah. You ever think you moved back?
I don't think so.
No.
That's one of the things when Matt and I started dating. I told him that the United States is home for me, and that I didn't necessarily have a desire to move back to Canada. I have lived the past, like, part of my triathlon career, I definitely trained in Victoria, British Columbia. So I'm not afraid to like be there and like live there for part of the year. But to me, home is the US. And that's just because my family's here.
Yeah, for sure. Good answer. So I'm going to make a little bit of an assumption again, and correct me if I'm wrong. But so Georgetown, you're going through university. Were you recruited into some type of a program with USA Triathlon? Okay. Was Tommy...
Yes.
Zafaris?
Tommy was not. Yeah, he wasn't the program. I got recruited by Barb Lindquist. I don't know if you're familiar with the name, but
I know the name. Yeah, but
she went to the Olympics and stuff for USAT and was a very successful swimmer at Stanford as well. So she's the one that actually reached out to my college coach and kind of put us in touch and offered me, honestly, this opportunity to fly out to California to try out for this fully funded triathlon program. And that's kind of why I took the risk, because I was like, there's nothing to lose. I'll give this a go for a summer, because that was June of, 2014. Yeah. And went to California to try out, was there for 3 weeks, and then traveled to Spain for 6 weeks with the group.
Yeah.
And then did my first triathlon.
Yeah. So walk me through 2 times. First, that offer comes across your table. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? And then the second, when you're actually getting on a plane to go and visit and this could be my future. What was that like?
Well, when they actually offered me that, I only had my green card. So it kind of made me have to decide, am I going to become American or not? Because to be part of this program, I had to be an American citizen. So it kind of prompted me to make that decision to become American, and I started that process. So that was pretty pivotal in my life too. Yeah. But yeah, no, flying out to California, that was nerve-wracking. My parents had bought me a road bike when I was in high school, because there was always this talk of maybe you should do triathlon since you swim and run so well. Yeah. And so they got me a bike for fun, and I rode it a few times, but to be honest, I was not comfortable riding on a road bike, especially draft legal.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a big learning curve.
Yeah, so flying out to California with this bike, this entry-level road bike, I was very nervous. I met up with the 2 coaches that were kind of evaluating me, was John Hall and Bobby McGee. And I remember just being so nervous as they watched me in a parking lot do skills on my bike, or I ran on the track, did a workout that they prescribed, and then I swam. And I was nervous and also so tired. I had never trained for 3 sports like that. And I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Those 3 weeks I was in over my head, that's for sure. I would never have imagined I'd still be doing the sport at this point. I kind of was like, okay, I'll try to make Rio, and if I'm still enjoying it, maybe. Yeah. And here I am, still going.
Yeah, for sure. So the next step after you get there and into that program, what was your progression looking like? Because forgive me for my uneducated knowledge in this, but you got like ITU, WTS races, Super League. It's kind of all intertangled. What was that journey like, getting to and from into this?
So the first step was needing to get my pro card. And there was an opportunity. I remember the date. It was like, I think it was August 12th in Detroit, Michigan. And so this was June. So I knew I had time, but it was definitely a steep learning curve. I was fortunate that this program, one of the benefits to it was that there are actually triathletes that were experienced and racing at the top level. And so I asked so many questions. I feel bad it was Kevin McDowell and Chelsea Burns. I remember I asked them thousands of questions. Probably they
Yeah.
were laughing at me with the littlest things I would ask. And it was just a very steep learning curve getting thrown into that environment. And I remember showing up for a group ride. I remember it was 2 hours, and I think I only had one water bottle cage on my bike, and I showed up in a running tank top, and they were like, okay, things have to change. You need to go to the store, buy a jersey, and you need a second bottle cage. Like, they were like, just things like that. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have any nutrition with me or anything. So I remember having to pick up on things very fast. And so, yeah, those 3 weeks I was in California, and then we went to Spain to train. And a lot of the athletes were leaving or traveling from Spain to race in Europe. But I was just preparing for this pro card race. And thankfully I was able to get my pro card. I won that race. And then I think it was like 3 weeks later, I went and raced U23 Worlds, which was my first pro race. And so I definitely was in over my head, but the coaches saw my potential and believed in me. And I kind of just trusted in that, and was the last person called out onto the pontoon and got fourth in the race. So it was definitely a successful first race for me. And that's when I would say I fell in love with the sport for sure. I kind of saw my potential and was like, oh, I can do well with this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. So I imagine that you show up at this first Worlds event, you're fresh into the pro world, people are starting to notice you. What was it like starting to receive some of that external, not even just from your coaches and people there, but like fans and things like that, as people start to like notice you? What was that like?
Sure. So at the time, there was a few of us athletes or like runners from college that were starting in the CRP program. Had Renee Tomlin, Summer Cook, Katie Safaris, or Hersey at the time, had been there a few years before me. So I feel like it wasn't a surprise to the world because there was already this pipeline of athletes coming up. Okay. And so it was more just seeing how I did at that level. And I remember being so, like, for example, we had a mixed team relay the second day. So I raced the individual at U23 Worlds, and then we had a U23 mixed relay. And I got a flat. And I remember going to the like wheel pit, and they're like 10 speed or 11 speed. No idea what they were talking about. Like, I mean, and I said 11 because my favorite number is 11. Nice. I had a 10 speed bike. But nice. So it was just like, I was so fresh to the sport that it was, I had a lot to learn, and I didn't honestly know the names of the sport, like the big names. And so I think that actually helped me because I stepped in the line and I didn't necessarily feel intimidated by them because I had no idea. And I mean, obviously now I've educated myself on the sport and big names and everything, but at the time I actually think it was helpful that I didn't know those athletes.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say is like a name nowadays that maybe some people would recognize that's like more of like your closest friend in this world that you live in?
Interesting. So one of my main training partners is Emily Kretz, Canadian. Okay. She's a 2-time Olympian. So I would say she's definitely one of my good friends. We live together occasionally when we're on training camp. And I would say that she's probably one of my main friends. But then my coach, Nate Wilson, coaches Flora Duffy. We got Valerie Bartholomew, Kevin McDowell. So there's a few of us living in Boulder that train together. So I feel fortunate to train with those athletes because of the caliber they are.
Yeah, for sure. Other than the caliber in terms of like athleticism, what is it about them that helps you feel like, oh, this is a good friend group for me? Like, this is going to continue to help me as a person and beyond.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is we don't have to show up to practice. It's not like my coach Nate is like 8 a.m. we have to be on the pool deck. Everyone's there. Yeah. It's totally like we're all individuals, decide to live in Boulder, decide to meet up, and we have fun with it. I think that's the biggest thing is that we have a life outside of triathlon. I'm not in a 24/7 camp feeling. This is home for me. And I think just having that mentality and we all share that, it just makes it more enjoyable and like practical. Like I could do this for years.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what percentage of Boulder would you say are professional athletes?
There are a lot, but that's honestly one of the things I love about it because having it be a professional run area as well. One of my good friends from college, Emily Infeld, is here all the time. And there's some other fellow Hoyas in the area with the on group. So it's nice to see familiar faces on the trail. And I enjoy it. I love the community. That's one of the reasons why I decided to live in Boulder, Colorado. I had made the decision, this is where I want to be, even before Matt had moved here or come in to see the town, like see it. And I was like, if I'm moving Matt away from Canada, away from his home, I needed to find a community that I knew he would fall in love with as well. And this was definitely that place for me. He is so social. He loves walking to the grocery store and seeing someone he knows, or downtown Boulder, or on the pool deck. He's the one talking as I'm swimming. He loves to chat to everyone and everyone. So this is a great place for that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a good little segue because I want to ask some questions about you and Matt. So how did you meet Matt?
We met on the triathlon circuit. I was training in Stellenbosch, South Africa, between two races. It was between Gold Coast and the Cape Town WTS. And I was going out for a ride with Kevin McDowell and Chelsea Burns, two fellow Americans that were going to be competing. And Kevin invited his Canadian friend. And so that was the first time I met Matt. And we honestly that was 2015, and we didn't start dating until 2016. So I had this crush on him from afar. And our first interaction wasn't the best because I asked him where he was from in Canada. And his first answer was, "Oh, you wouldn't know." And he didn't know that I know. And that's not like him. I think he was injured at the time, so wasn't in the best headspace. But I said, try me. I'm from Canada. And so he told me. But that's how we started. So it's kind of funny for people to hear that, knowing Matt and how friendly he is, that he was kind of short with me the first interaction. But that didn't scare me away. I would see him at races and I would always say hi and get so nervous. So when he finally asked me out for coffee, like a year later, I was stoked.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How much? So you said a year later from the time you saw him for the first time, and then you went on a date. That was a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is. It is for sure. We were in different training groups and not living in the same place, so it really didn't make sense. And then when he finally asked me out, we were both training in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay. So we were in the same location, which made it easier.
Yeah. Did you guys make the move from Scottsdale to Boulder together? Was that the kind of the plan?
Yeah. So I joined his training group after that year because that was my last year of the Collegiate Recruitment program. So I had to make a coaching change. So then we trained together, split our time between Scottsdale and Victoria, British Columbia. And then we both made a coaching change. He started working with Lance Watson and I joined Ian O'Brien's group here in Boulder. And so that's kind of how I ended up here. And then after Tokyo, I wanted to have more individualized training, not have the group environment. I decided I didn't necessarily need that. And for me to make this sustainable, I needed to have more of a life balance. And that's when I started working with Nate Wilson because he was at the time living in Spain. So it was fully remote. And I knew this would be a great environment to find other like athletes who don't necessarily aren't coached by Nate, but are doing the same thing. And so we can make training work. And that's how we ended up here.
Yeah. Good place. I hear good things. He was actually connecting me with people because my wife and I are thinking about making a move here soon when she graduates from nurse practitioner school. And Boulder seems like a cool place. There's a few.
Awesome. So yes, please come join the community. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I have a question. 2014 is when you start. I guess you're going through your third Olympic cycle as like in the sport. Walk me through each of those cycles.
Ooh. Yeah. So Rio was definitely a reach. I knew that it was going to be a long shot to qualify for the Olympic team. And I ended up being the alternate for Rio. They didn't bring us. We didn't travel to Rio, but I was in San Diego training. And when I found out they didn't need me, that was it. I was stoked, honestly, to be the alternate. Obviously, I wanted to make the team, but I felt like
good step.
Being named the alternate was a good step and was like, okay, I'm on a trajectory. So then Tokyo, I had a great 2017 and 2018 year. I finished 4th overall in the series for 2 years in a row. I did hold the series podium, I think at least twice, or the leader during the season. I didn't end up winning. I was 4th, but I I was in the play. Like I got my first series podium in Yokohama. I was on the podium there, and I kind of started to have that feeling of like, oh, if I don't make this team, like that's not good. Like I felt like I was on the trajectory. Yeah, I started to put that pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, I got a really big injury. And the sight of Tokyo was like, oh, this isn't as easy as I thought it could be. Not that making the Olympic team is ever easy, but I started having that expectation that like I should make the team based off of finishing fourth 2 years in a row and where I saw myself progressing. So then I got my injury and I was out for 6 months. I had a partial tear.
Injury?
Yeah, partial tear in the adductor at the pubic bone. So I ended up, that wasn't much fun. It was very painful. I honestly couldn't run. I couldn't bike. I couldn't really swim. I was swimming with a wetsuit on because I couldn't actually hold a pull buoy between my legs because that's how much it hurt.
Wow.
So I was swimming with a wetsuit, not kicking. And that was the extent. And I couldn't flip turn because that hurt too. I would open turn. So that was quite a reality check for me. And it definitely changed my perspective on qualifying. It turned from thinking I should qualify to this opportunity. Like if it happens, it happens, but I'm just grateful to be on the start line. It really changed my mindset going into it, which has helped me for this Olympic cycle, to be honest. So I didn't qualify for Tokyo. I was the alternate again. I did make it to the trials, but unfortunately I crashed during the race. Me and Katie went down. I still finished the race. I think I was 12th or 14th. I'm not sure. Okay. But I ended up having to get 12 stitches in my hip because I landed on her chain ring.
Makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah. It opened up my hip, and I remember knowing it was bad as it was happening, but I couldn't look down because I was like, the adrenaline and everything, I'm still in pain. So I knew it was pretty bad, but finished the race, didn't qualify.
Wow.
Had some other opportunities later for 2021 after the whole COVID era, didn't qualify. So
can we pause?
I was grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, you were grateful. I'm sure you were. I want to hear about that, but I want to go back a little bit to your first injury that with the adductor stuff on the pubic bone. How long did that last? And like at what point did you start doing kind of the sports psychology stuff to like kind of work through everything?
Yeah, so I was actually working with my sports psychologist before the injury, and I remember having that conversation like, I don't know if I'm going to be okay if I don't make it, if I don't make this Olympic team. I don't know. And then being injured, her helping me through the injury, but then also changing my mentality. So they kind of like transformed during that time I was injured is kind of when it fully shifted, because she saw me before when I was on this high, having 2 successful years, to this really low point, this dark point for myself. So I feel like, as much as obviously no one wants to get injured, that definitely helped me mentally
toughen,
prepare for races differently. I think I needed that perspective, to be honest, just to kind of remove that pressure and find my love for the sport again.
Yeah,
I absolutely love racing. I don't like training that much. I am definitely the racer, and so I was definitely motivated to get back to that during my injury. So I was injured I did 3 months without swim, bike, run.
Wow.
And then I ended up getting several PRP injections into my adductor, my abs, everything, because everything in that area just got weak and was painful. And so our trials was in August of that year. So I would say I was back racing in July, and I definitely wasn't 100% fit. I was just kind of going into it like, I'm on the start line. Let's see what happens.
Wow.
I was cleared to race, obviously, but in terms of what my preparation I wanted it to be for those races, it wasn't perfect. I had 6 weeks to prepare for that trials and have serious training. So it wasn't ideal, but I had flipped it in the head that I was like, why not? Why not? Why can't I make it? I'm here. I'm lining up. And was the hardest part for me to get to that start line.
And then the start line, that was the start line where you wrecked?
Yes. And so unfortunately that set me back because the crash with the stitches, obviously, but then I also had osteitis pubis, so inflammation in my pubic joint. And so I couldn't run for probably like the fall. It was very minimal running. If anything, I wasn't doing any workouts. And so, yeah, 2019 was a rough year for me. I still lined up in the fall of 2019, but it was more, I just needed to get points than it was trying to perform at the level I was like the previous years.
Yeah. Why do you need to get points? Sorry.
Yeah. So the U.S. women are very competitive.
Seems.
Yes. There's probably like 8 of us going for this Olympic team.
Yeah.
For Paris. And at the time, I went from being, I think, the 2nd ranked American to I was the 6th American. And only 5 women can line up on the World Series, the top level racing. They're only allowed 5 spots. And so it's very important to be in that top 5 just to get on the start line. So that fall, I was just racing, trying to hold on to my position and get points for my ranking.
And how many slots are there available for Olympics? Is it 5 as well?
There's 3.
3.
So, yes, it's a blessing, but then also really challenging to have such a strong team. I mean, it definitely raises the bar in terms of our level of competition, and we're always striving to be better. But no, it's a tough task to make this Olympic team.
Yeah, for sure. How's the sports psychologist world going these days?
Yeah, no, don't worry. I still use my sports psych for sure. No, it's definitely a key part to keeping me like sane and help me through this process for sure.
So I'm more keen to like the business world and competition. And so like some of the competitors who I've had in past things, some of them I haven't talked to at all. Some of them I do talk to and we have like good relationships, but it's like once we get behind, once you get on the race line, it's like you're trying to kill each other more or less. Do you find that the relationships between the US women on the team or fighting to be on the team are pretty cordial, like nice and everyone's relatively close, or does it get hairy?
No, to be honest, I think we're all very respectful of each other. We totally are supportive. I'm grateful for that because otherwise this could be even this year. But no, we show up and we're a team. And I mean, having to race on mixed team relays together, we kind of need to have that attitude. So no, it's definitely, I mean, yes, we all line up and we want the spot. We want to beat each other, but off the triathlon, we're fine. We all like stay together in a hotel as Team USA and we all get on well. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
So when is the Olympic qualifying race? Because I know that's coming up. And what are you doing? There's that thumbs up. When is that Olympic qualifying race and what are you doing to prepare for it? Like,
sure. So we've had 2 qualifying races already and we have a 3rd one in May. The first 2 were this summer. We actually got to race on the Paris Olympic course. And Taylor Knibb qualified. And so our second race was in Pontevedra, Spain in September, and that was our grand final race. And you had to be on the podium, and no American finished on the podium. So no one qualified for that spot. And then our next qualifier is in Yokohama, Japan on May 11th.
Okay.
And you have to finish on the podium.
To get
and only 1 spot is up for grabs there. And the 3rd spot for our Olympic team is discretion.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so it means the selectors, there'll be like a panel of 4 people, I believe.
On the Olympic committee?
Yeah, meet and discuss and select the 3rd athlete.
Oh, that's stressful.
So obviously Yokohama is my focus, but at the same time, I'm just trying to perform each time I step on the line, just kind of give those selectors an idea of who I am, who I think I can be at the Olympic Games, and hopefully show them enough that they would select me.
Yeah, for sure. How are you feeling preparedness wise? I mean, May is a good ways away, depending on how you look at it. It may be short to you, but how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I think this Olympic team is open. I think it will definitely come down to who's prepared in May. I don't think it's like solidified at this point.
Yeah.
And I find that very exciting. I have been injured this year. Unfortunately, it hasn't stopped me from racing, but it hasn't made my training easy. I have a herniated disc in my back. That's honestly been giving me some grief. So I've had to end my season earlier than I was hoping.
Yeah.
But I've addressed it and I'm rehabbing it right now. And I'm grateful that we have the time we do because of that. So to be honest, I'm in the gym 3 times a week with my strength coach, trying to get stronger, trying to kind of, to be honest, it's ever since my 2019 injury, I think I've had these imbalances because of it, since it was all on my left side, and I'm finally have the time to address it. And so I'm excited because I honestly think I'm going to be a stronger, better athlete.
Yeah,
so
good.
It's all good. Come January, I feel like I'll be back to being a triathlete, because right now I've had to take some time off the bike just to do this rehab properly. But no, it's good. I'm excited.
Yeah. Do you ever stress like, oh, I'm off the bike for too long, I'm going to lose something? Or are you pretty solid mentally?
No, I'm solid. I'm
That's
absolutely fine. To be honest, I was in so much pain riding the bike for a while there that it's kind of been a nice mental break.
Yeah.
It's part of, I think, me rehabbing it. I needed that mental break away from having that constant pain. So, no, and honestly, me being stronger will only help me for the bike. And I was new to cycling in 2014, so I don't feel like it took me that long to pick it up. Yeah. And so I don't think I'll lose too much. Sure, I'll be a little less watts pushed at the beginning, but I'm confident I can get back to the level I need to be.
If you could spare and sell some of that confidence that you have, I think a lot of people would be interested in purchasing it.
Yeah. Sometimes people say to me, like, a lot of times I line up on a race and I haven't had perfect training, or I haven't had the weeks of consistent training. And people ask me, like, how are you so confident? And I just love racing. I think, sure, maybe I'm not 100% ready to race, but the competitor in me comes out, and I find I exceed maybe what my fitness is, just because I love competing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of channel that. It makes me excited to see what I can do.
Yeah. The mind follows the body. It sounds like you are a believer.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, for sure. Does Matt share this same level of confidence that you do you think?
Like in terms of his own racing?
Or in just his general personality? Because I'm assuming your confidence carries beyond this. Maybe I'm
Sure. Sure. I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely know he gets confidence from training, which I do as well, having successful sessions. But no, I definitely think so. And to be honest, he's one of my biggest supporters. And so even like his confidence in me, I feel that. Like that helps me.
Yeah. Hey, good question. Good answer. I know it's a little tongue-in-cheek question, but I was just curious what you say. So Super League, compare Super League triathlon, for those who don't know what Super League is, first. Maybe describe that as someone who has experienced it.
Sure. Super League racing is fast and really painful. Yeah. They basically take the shorter format, like our mixed team relay, and we do it individualized. So it's going to be a 300-meter swim, about a 5 to 7K bike, depending on the course, and then usually a mile run. And they like to make it a little brutal, and you do that sometimes 3 times in a row with only 4 minutes rest in between. Or they mix up the order on us, so we have to do bike, run, swim. Or so it definitely challenges us athletes mentally too, because I mean, there's been times before when I ran and I was running to the water and I was like, shoot, I still got my sunglasses. And so I had to like stuff them in my suit. So it's definitely fun. There's no pressure, because there's no, honestly, points towards the series or the Olympics. It's just us competing over this fast format. And they create an environment where you get to know your competitors. Like you're traveling and living in the same hotel for days with these athletes, and it's fun to get to know them and kind of take away that pressure or competitiveness. Like you're not competing necessarily for country. It's just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is if you're allowed to say this, I know that some athletes kind of are protective about their heart rate stuff, but what is your max heart rate? And when you're doing that race, where's your heart rate landing?
Goodness. Yeah. It's been a while since I've tested my max heart rate, but at the time it was like 202, I think. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're redlining, especially if you're chasing. The swim in that racing, there's no rules. So to be honest, it's aggressive. You'll get dunked
smacking each other.
Yeah. And a lot of times the way the pontoon is set up, there's definitely an advantage on one spot versus the other. But they love that. That's the whole point of Super League. They love the making it dramatic and causing some chaos. And so, the first round of any of the Super League, you're redlining and you're like, how am I going to do this again? Like every time you're like, I don't know if I can do this. But that's the fun part. It's just seeing your limits.
Whenever there's a Super League race, is this happening just one day and like that's it, or is there like multiple days where they're doing these?
Yeah, so in 2017 and 2018 when I raced Super League, it was multiple days, sometimes 3 days. Wow. One day would be like a time trial, and then you'd have Saturday be one format, and then Sunday be again.
Okay.
But they've changed it a little bit since then. Now it's just 1 day of racing, and obviously in various locations, but you'll have a series of races, and you score over a series. So there was 4 races this year. I believe there has been more in previous years, but it kind of makes it more doable in terms of like my head, like wrapping my head around doing 1 day versus 3, because by the third day you're hurting, like every muscle hurts, and you're
I'm sure it's like a VO2 max session for days on end. Like,
but I do think it's like a huge training benefit doing these Super League races. Really? You definitely get a boost. You can't bring yourself to that level in training. So to be able to kind of incorporate that in your season, I think is great.
Do you think that our Super League athletes in between the sessions, obviously not in the 4-minute break, but in between races, like that they get recovered enough?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I know for myself, I make sure I'm definitely an athlete that likes to taper. So I definitely make sure I do have enough recovery. That's for sure. But it's fun, and thankfully it's great for our sport. With financially, it helps us. It pays well, and I'm grateful for that we can have, after this WTS or ITU season, we can have those races where we can make some more money and support ourselves that way.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So I know that Super League is going to be moving more to the U.S. They just acquired New York City Triathlon and the race in California, and I think another one, if I'm not mistaken.
Chicago.
Okay. So are you going to be racing those areas? Are you going to be with the RTS Warriors next year? Are you allowed to say that yet?
I haven't had any final discussions, to be honest. I haven't seen the calendar for Super League or talked about a contract for next year, but if it makes sense, I'm 100% in. I really do enjoy this racing, and I'm grateful that they purchased a few more races in the US. We don't get to race at home very often on the World Triathlon stage, so to be able to have Super League races here is great. It was a lot of fun to race in Malibu and have some of my friends come out and cheer me on and be on home soil. It was pretty neat.
So is there any complexity where your coach has to like work in these races into the training plan? Like, I'm assuming all that gets considered.
Oh, definitely. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we always kind of set out what I would like to do. And then obviously that has to adapt over time based on like injury, or if I make the Olympic team or if I don't make the Olympic team. So I always ask to incorporate them for sure, because I do enjoy them. And so the only reason why I wouldn't do it is if I needed to race a different race for a certain reason.
Good deal. So to change gears just a little bit, I have a question that Matt said I should ask.
Oh no, I'm nervous.
So it should be a pretty good one. Okay. What is your favorite sports game you went to in Boston?
Oh, I feel like he's like lining this up for an answer. I did go to a World Series game for the Red Sox with my dad back in the day. So I would say that was probably my like highlight of a sporting event. But I am a huge sports fan, and especially a New England like Patriots fan. So I've gone to a few of those games over the years. And hockey. I mean, having my uncle be a professional hockey player, he played for the Bruins, coached the Boston Bruins. So I am definitely a hockey fan as well.
Yeah. Do you play hockey?
Do I? No. I skate. It's been a while. I haven't done it since I started triathlon, to be honest. I'm too nervous. I would injure myself, but no, I never played hockey.
Yeah. Is there a female league, like professional league? Do you know?
I mean, the U.S. professional or women's Olympic team is very successful.
USA.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, maybe after triathlon, you could go do hockey.
We'll see.
The longevity of that sport seems a little less with you losing. I would imagine it's pretty brutal.
I'm sure.
Yeah. For sure. So I want to talk a little bit about identity. So you have been a part of sport for, it seems like you were saying, 5 years old, in the water is a big piece of who you are. When this chapter of your life closes from a professional standpoint, I'm sure you'll still be active. Do you feel like that's going to be like a really difficult thing for you, or have you thought about it or not thought about it at all? What do you think that would be like?
Sure. No, I've definitely thought about it. I mean, I didn't go to university, and I actually have my master's degree as well for nothing. I want to put those to use. My master's degree is in sports industry management. So fortunately, I want to stay within the sport, hopefully some realm of triathlon. I'm not sure what that will look like, but I would love to kind of be on the flip side, if it's for a federation helping athletes, or if it's for like a sponsor helping market athletes. I think just being on this side of things, having this understanding, I want to help people, because it's definitely it's hard at times, and having people to support your goals is huge, and I want to be able to do that for someone in the future.
That's awesome. What group or brand or federation has helped you to feel most valued in your professional journey?
To be honest, I feel like this is my USA Triathlon for sure, because I would not have been able to leave Georgetown and start triathlon. The cost of coaching, bike, travel, everything, it wouldn't have been possible graduating from university without that financial help, to be able to train full time as a triathlete versus having to get a job and trying to make it work. It definitely has been life-changing for me to have their support, and to still be supported by them, for sure. It's why I've been able to do this for as long as I have.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like USA Triathlon is continuing to grow and try to invest and innovate in new ideas for like how to grow these programs. I spoke with Tim, I think you say his last name, Yount. Yount. Yeah, and he was telling me about all the different things they've got going on. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's great that they're expanding it, and they're pushing for women's NCAA. They have men's project podium. So they're definitely trying to keep triathlon popular in the United States. And it's exciting times to see the development and growth of the program. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like the sport. I mean, I've only been a part of it since 2020. And even since I've been a part of it post-COVID, it seems like it's growing quite a lot. There's a lot of like moving and shaking with Ironman stuff and, all the politics behind that and new organizations and things like that. But it does seem that we're on the cusp of like a real exponential growth.
And I do think a big part of that, honestly, was Gwen winning gold in Rio, and then Katie and the mixed team relay winning medals in Tokyo. So I kind of feel like it's just this continued growth and success that's pushing the sport forward in the United States. And I do hope that our shorter distance, Olympic distance, does build more traction in the US, because it's amazing how in Europe it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's massive.
Yeah, it's the crowds and stuff that turn up for our races is incredible. And it makes a difference. And I do hope we can get there in the United States. But for now, the support within half Ironman and Ironman and those distances and PTO has been great. And so there is definitely the potential. So it's nice that the community is growing, and that those levels, there's more opportunity too.
Yeah. Do you know, because when I think of like the origin of triathlon, my mind goes to late 70s, early 80s Ironman stuff.
Sure.
Is it the same story in Europe? Like, or was it a lot longer?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I actually don't know. I wouldn't.
We gotta Google that.
To look that up.
We gotta find somebody. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next few years, but for sure. Well, just a couple more questions to kind of wrap things up a little bit. What are your deepest values? It can be kind of within and outside of triathlon that keep you moving forward and kind of keep you grounded.
I think through my career, experiencing just gratitude. I think that's a big one to keep me motivated and lining up. And yeah, to keep me grounded for sure. I think also, just to be honest, something that's helped me is just the support of my family and the value I put into family. And that's definitely huge.
Yeah, good deal. That's awesome. Well, so my final question is a stupid question. You know who, I'm assuming you know who Kyle Glass is?
Yeah.
So, I was on a live on Instagram with Mark Duberg yesterday, and Kyle got on and he asked this question, and I went to steal it from him. So, Kyle, thank you so much for that, for the question. The question is, how many chickens would it take, do you think, to kill an elephant?
I have no idea. What was their answer?
I said, I asked about specifics. I said, are we talking just roosters and chickens? I did like a 75 rooster, 25 chicken split, because roosters have these really sharp talons. They like jump up. I grew up in the country, so we would fight roosters to run around and stuff. And they would jump up, and they can really do some damage with the talon on the back of their, whatever that thing is called, a leg, chicken foot. And then I forget, Mark was saying something around, I think he said like 150 chickens or something like that, and they'll scratch its eyes. Right. Yeah. So what do you think?
Oh man, I don't know. Yeah. I'm terrible at these type of questions. Hundreds. Yeah. It's going to take hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah. Elephants are huge, so. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Well, good deal. Well, Kirsten, is it Kirsten or Kirsten? I'm sorry. Kirsten.
No, you're fine. Okay. To be honest, Matt called me Kristen for the first 3 months of dating, so you're good.
Perfect. 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 Well, thank you so much for coming on and letting me dive in a little bit to who you are as an individual. Definitely cheering for you come May and everything else, and get fully healthy, continue to get super strong.
Yes, that's the goal. Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much to Kirsten for coming on and letting me dive in a bit on who she is as a person, hear a bit about her values, her journey, the injuries, the recovery. She has done a great number of things. It is really awesome to witness that journey. Good luck to her on qualifying in just a couple of months for the Olympics coming up. So if you made it to this point in the episode, just want to say thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, turn on the notification bell. Really does help us to grow. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of those other podcast apps, please review us, follow us, send us questions if you're on the Spotify app, and that really does help as well. Lastly, if you want to go to our website, stupidquestions.show, and sign up for our newsletter. If you would enjoy that, please sign up. We do exclusive offers and giveaways and lots of other stuff. So please check that out. And that is it, I think, for today. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we'll catch you in the next one.